Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, your casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
And we're back today with another great episode recapping the latest run of shows from Troutdale to Mempho Fest. And we're featuring a special guest today, Dean Novin. Dean's done a ton of awesome work running the Goose the Band history and trivia page, and also doing some work with WTED on Breakfast with Orebolo. Dean, how you doing today?
Guess I'll say, and I'm Dean. I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. We're going to get diving into your journey with Goose in a little bit, but before we get started, a few administrative items to knock out. As always, we've got a ton of episode topics coming up that we're excited to share with you. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow our socials at SlowReadyPod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you're at, we're at. And if you're enjoying the show, please let a fellow Goose fan know about us. Our socials are definitely the best way to keep up with what's going on and whenever we have new episode releases, so be sure to check those out. And second, and finally, we have a few big news items that came through this week. The first being the massive news, Goose's second ever festival, Viva El Gonzo, down in Cabo in Mexico, where Goose will be playing 3 nights and has a bunch of awesome guests on the billing beneath them with The War on Drugs, Tycho, Dawes, LPGOB, Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, Eggy, Dogs in a Pile, you name it, they're there. Guys, are you guys thinking about going, and who are you excited to see?
I unfortunately am not sure if I'm going to be able to go. I'm trying to move as many things around to make sure I can go, or at least give it the best effort, but it looks absolutely incredible, so we'll see, but it's going to be an uphill battle, but I'm going to try.
So, wife and I are going. Still working on the exact details of where, stay, and all that. Obviously, pre-sales coming up tomorrow, as this is pre-recorded, right? I'm super excited. I'm seeing Dogs in the Pile 6 times this fall. So clearly that should make me smile that they're on the billing. And it's 2 sets every band, which is great. I've seen Eggy along with Dogs twice at the Cap Theater. So I've seen Eggy almost a dozen times over the last 2 years, which is also awesome. Sierra Hole will be my first time seeing her. Pigeons Playing Ping Pong I've seen a whole bunch of times. So this is a really good festival lineup for me. I mean, it's just like you look up and you're like, wow, that's my ideal festival set list. Also, Mahali's great. I've seen him a couple times. So really, really good lineup for me. I'm excited. So.
Yeah, it looks incredible, and worth noting, this is run a little bit differently than a lot of these Mexico trips you see bands put together, where you can just buy the festival wristband and pick whatever hotel or all-inclusive resort you want to stay at, and you'll get shuttled into these amazing fairgrounds, and it looks like it's entertainment all day, and some surprise late-night stuff looks like it's planned as well that we don't know about yet, so really excited for you, Dean. I really doubt that me and my wife will be going, unfortunately. Tough with Mother's Day weekend for us, but we'll be chatting with you a bunch to kind of get the vibes.
The one thing that you don't see on there is the word Orebolo, which obviously is something secretive because there's no way they're going to Mexico and the 3 of them aren't playing. So we know that's a done deal. It's just a matter of when and what the schematics are and the surprises and stuff like that. And hopefully everyone that's there will be there for that portion because Orebolo is awesome, which we'll get to obviously in a little bit. So.
Yeah, for sure. I really hope you're right about that. That was definitely a glaring non-inclusion on the main list of acts performing, so really hope we get some Orebolo for sure. And then secondly, not as exciting of news, some unfortunate news, is that the 2 Asheville shows on October 25th and 26th have been canceled. Based on scanning some of the band's socials, it sounds like they have something planned for a benefit show at the time of recording here. We don't have any specifics on that yet. But maybe when you're listening to this, they've already announced some kind of benefit show to replace those dates. But unfortunately, with devastation going on down there in Asheville, it doesn't look like it's going to happen in the original format. But with all of that, let's dive into our main topic for today's episode. We're going to recap some shows with Dean, but first we're going to kind of get to know Dean a little bit and all of his work he does with Goose. So let's dive into this Q&A, Mike. You got any questions lined up for Dean?
Yeah, I guess the best place to start is, can you tell us a little bit about how you found Goose?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's a little blurry. My Grateful Dead finding in 1989 is a lot easier to understand exactly how I fell upon the Grateful Dead. But with Goose, there's 2 forces. Local friend Jason back in late fall 2019. He's like, buy a ticket to see this band called Goose. They're playing in Philly. It just happened to be the Foundry, which is above the Fillmore, on April 23rd of 2020. Bought tickets, and the venue's 350 people. I've seen Eggy up there. It's tiny. And it got canceled, obviously, COVID. At the same time, my college roommate, who I fell in love with the Grateful Dead with, I have been seeing shows with him ever since we graduated college in '92. So every year it's one or two shows of some band or iteration of whatever we're going to see together, whether it's Dark Shore Orchestra, J-Rad, or whatever Dead iteration Bobby's in, something like that. His friend that he'd always tag along fell in love with Goose, my buddy Rick, who I started the trivia group with. So one day, my friend from college is like, Rick's like the president of the Goose fan club or something. He's really into this band Goose. And I'm like, what is this? So I start texting Rick a little bit, and the parallels were there. So I think it was a combination of both of those that got me to the band. I still wonder what would have happened if there was no COVID and I saw Goose in April of 2020. Like, where would I be today? Like, where would the band be? Because that's, dramatic changes in timelines and everything. And maybe everything worked out for a reason. So I leave it like that. So.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. COVID for most bands was pretty devastating, but with Goose, it almost kind of propelled them in a way. They got a lot of exposure they wouldn't have gotten otherwise online. Other acts really struggling to stream, and they were kind of pioneering it compared to most acts.
Yeah, you just don't know what would have been different had the timeline been not COVID and where they'd be. Obviously, I'd assume they'd be in the same spot as they are right now, just a different path to get here. So, I mean, they're that good that it was inevitably going to happen. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And that's another good segue. You had mentioned it briefly in your answer there about how did you find the Goose history and trivia page? What's the story behind starting that page on Facebook and the Twitter account and all of that?
So I go back to my buddy Rick, who was the Goose president of the fan club at one point. He really wasn't, but he went to Peach 19, then hopped on a plane, went out to Michigan, saw Goose, has some video footage from him just standing there in these little venues that were like 150 people. So through texting Rick and back at my days in college in my fraternity house, my friend and I used to say we were making Grateful Dead Trivial Pursuit. So we were doing trivia. There was this old book called Dead Base, and it had all the stats. So that's how we got the stats back then. You bought a book, and you had all the stats. So we'd sit around, do our thing in the fraternity house, and we would do Dead Trivia for God knows how long, hours maybe, and just sit around and do it. So I think it paralleled from that. And one day I started texting Rick, and every couple of weeks I trivia him. What does he know? How much does he know? And I'm like, this guy knows so much. This is crazy. Thanksgiving weekend of 2022, I pitched the idea. I said, let's start a trivia history group. And he's like, sure, why not? And we got it up and running, and it'll be 2 years, in the next month or so. So we've been doing this for 2 years. I then started the Twitter account maybe about 4 months after the Facebook group started. So I started paralleling that myself, running that trivia side of things, more history than trivia on the Twitter page.
And that's must-see entertainment for any diehard Goose fans. Like, I love every post you make, Dean. It's fantastic. You get like on these day posts, you get really cool nuggets about shows. If something cool was played at a show, you might post something about the last time it was played, or if there was a really historic venue they played at or something like that. You just always have these great nuggets of wisdom that we definitely leverage and love seeing.
Yeah, my goal is to dive into something and do it different. I don't look back at the prior year, what I'm doing. So I don't want to see what I posted last year. I'm now going through another cycle. So I kind of look at it and just in my brain, like, what do I need to do? What's going to be neat about this? And a lot of times I'm finding now what people really like, and people really like the old videos, but it's not reposting something. It's taking a portion of the video, like a clip, and screen recording it and then putting it up on the page, finding it from different sources and giving credit to the source, of course, but different things that make people tick, and then just trying different things and looking for pictures, images, like the promotional flyers. Like we've got the flyer from the very first show ever, from 10 years ago, September 27th of 2014. That flyer is awesome. I mean, that it's still there. So looking for things that are different, and then each year not looking back at what I did and just trying to figure out what I'm going to do for each day. So,
all right. So diving into that a little bit, what's the process of data mining and finding information for your pages?
So my day of the information, it gets a little bit easier as I'm now going through my second full cycle. But I start off at El Goose, what shows were on this date in history. And then I go to Goose's Facebook page and I start looking at those specific dates on history, see what's out there, see what news is, see if there's any missing information. Maybe Goose has a date that El Goose doesn't have. To parallel all of this, I got myself connected with Ryan Storm, who updates the elgoose.net page, and we have a joint spreadsheet that we share. I make any updates on there that need to be updated to El Goose, then he goes in from time to time and actually updates the page. We found hundreds of things that are missing. Set lists, shows, guest sit-ins, all kinds of different things that we've been able to uncover through my daily research and stuff like that. So I'll use Goose's main Facebook page. I'll go to El Goose and I'll search in there. It's a little harder to search inside Facebook groups. I go to venue pages. I go to YouTube, which again is a little hard to search. Sometimes you can't sort perfectly. I just use Google, the internet, Google News, Google Internet. And I just try all different sources through social media, also Twitter as well, and just trying to find, what's missing, because there's still so much missing, but also, trying to find what's neat about today in Goose history and maybe try to find something different that I might not have found last year, the prior year, something like that. So,
gosh, that's an intense process. And even when we were doing our history episode, we were like searching on Facebook, and you're finding these like random videos of people going live and stuff, and shows that I was like, oh man, I never even heard about this tiny little show. And you're just watching videos of grainy video feeds from some bar that Goose was playing back in 2017 or 2018 or something like that.
Yeah, there's still a lot really blurry. Vasuto's very blurry in early Goose until Peter got there. Once Peter got there, social media changed completely. And you can go back on his Great Blue page. Peter was doing it right in like 2012 when Great Blue started. I mean, he was really had it nailed perfectly. Swimmer actually too. I don't know who was running Swimmer's page, but Cotter's old band was doing it well too with social media, but Goose was not. They just were not as organized, and a lot of stuff is missing.
So what's your favorite nugget you found so far when combing through all of this insane data that's really hard to track down?
Well, I've recently found all 4 St. John's Revival shows, which I believe there's only been 4, digging as much as I could. They're to be updated soon. There was 4 shows, including what they called the final revival. I also, when you go back and look at some of the older band members, it's really blurry. They had a band member whose nickname was Butters. His name is Patrick Carr, and there's very little out there on the guy. And I found him, and it was unbelievable how I dug and what I did to find the guy. I have not just written, this is who he is, this is where he is. I think privacy is more important. I do have a goal of reaching out to him one day, but I found him. He's doing well. Still involved in music, just in a different way. And it was pretty cool to go out and actually find a guy. And he's a great musician. Listened to some of his stuff, more recently, and it's good. But it's pretty interesting to be able to find. I found Butters, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's fantastic, man.
You guys might
Butters.
be like, who is Butters? You probably don't even know.
Stop. We know who Butters is.
I think March of 2016 was the time he disappeared from Goose's promotional Facebook stuff, so I believe that was the end. But it's really blurry, specific dates, when he started, when he ended. But you have to kind of dig through pages and look at videos and try to get it. One day we'll get the timelines. One day we're going to get these exact dates. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But for now, it's still blurry with some gray areas.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable how hard it is to find information for such a modern band, especially the early stuff, like you said.
It's unbelievable that it's just not there. It really is. It's just remarkably unbelievable. But not everybody, had to dive on social media back then. But some people did, and I guess we got to again thank Peter, because it changed when he came in. He came on board in December of 2017. So
yeah, Peter's the man, and I don't know how he does it. He's up after shows mixing the audio for us to all hear, and oftentimes posted before we even wake up. It's just, the guy's a machine.
Absolutely.
But pivoting into something else you do for the community, you run the Breakfast with Orebolo show on WTED. So can we talk a little bit about how that got started and your relationship with Orebolo?
Yeah, it got started when I was a kid in the car on Sunday mornings with my parents listening to Breakfast with the Beatles. And that's literally how it got started. And I just realized one day that the Beatles and Orebolo are like perfectly matched for Sunday morning music, and it just made sense. Before the show started, I started tweeting breakfast with Orebolo, what are you listening to?" with a picture of something I was listening to. And I did it for about 2 to 3 months. And then somehow WTED came along last summer in 23, and I bumped into Kyle. Somehow we started chatting online and talking on the phone. And I just literally pitched the idea, "Hey, why don't we do breakfast with Orebolo on Sunday mornings?" And we started breakfast with Orebolo on Sunday mornings, and it's been done ever since. So every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then on Wednesdays, Wednesday afternoons, we've been doing the show, but that's not a specific time because of the scheduling, so it just kind of fits in when a show ends. They'll plug in some TED tapes and then try to get it at a 15-minute interval when the show starts. So it's every Sunday and every Wednesday. I've reviewed every Orebolo show that they've had. I've also created a whole bunch of specific set lists and special shows that we've made. We have a Valentine's Day love special. We have a St. Patrick's Day show. We have a summer playlist. We have an upcoming winter playlist. We have an upcoming Halloween playlist. And next week, we have a I Love the 70s, or Orebolo loves the 70s, because there's 17 songs from the 1970s that Orebolo has played and covered, and it fits perfectly in a 2-hour show. So it's pretty cool. And I really like doing it. It's a lot of fun. I do like having guests on there as well, like you guys have. So every once in a while, I'll have a guest come on and review a show. But I'm always seeking out the guest and trying to find the right person to do a show and hop on with me to do some creative content and stuff like that.
So what's been your personal favorite Orebolo show to review, or, compilation to put together so far?
No, the best would be the first, 9/7/22 at Levitt Pavilion. I guess my cool show story, if you're going to ask me if I had one, I can tell you what it is. Rick and I, my buddy who got into Goose, who was the big fan early on, we went up into Orebolo, but we left really early for Levitt Pavilion. We're both in Jersey, so we got there, wanted to beat all the traffic, and we literally got there like 3 hours before the show at Levitt Pavilion, and it's an outdoor little theater along the water up there in Connecticut. Rick's like, "Let's go in the venue and see what's going on." I'm like, "We can't do that." He goes, "Yes, we can." And we just walk in, and literally walk in, there's the band setting up. And they know Rick because he went out and toured with him. So like, "Hey, Rick, how you doing?" Next thing I know, we're talking to the band. But Peter hadn't been there, so it was it was Jeff, Rick, and Coach were setting up the stage. And it's Jeff, Rick, Coach, Rick, my friend, and myself, and we're standing there at the bottom of the stage for half an hour just talking to the band. Security guy comes in, he goes, "What are you guys doing here?" And then we just walked out, and that was it. So then we got in line. So best show ever was that for me. Coolest story ever would be that for me as well. And I just love reviewing that show. When the sun started setting down, the crickets started chirping. If you listen closely with a headset or some AirPods, you will hear crickets in the background, like New Speedway Boogie. It's the first time they ever played it. It's really cool to hear the crickets chirping, and it adds this ambient sound to the soundboards and stuff like that, making it really cool. So 9/7/22 by far.
Excellent. I love hearing stories like that. And you had mentioned to us before the show, too, you had done some pretty cool runs with the band and Orebolo at the Cap. How was that?
It was fun. I did all the 23 Goose shows. I did all the 24 Goose shows. I have to be really thankful. The first show ever with Cotter, that was a really hard ticket to get. I found someone, and I'm just so thankful that they were able to get me a ticket. So I've seen those 7 shows. I've seen Rick once with Phil there, and then I've seen the 3 Orebolo shows there this year as well, and also the little podcast that Orebolo did with Osiris Media. So I've seen Rick and the band. I've seen Rick one more time than everyone else, but just an amazing amount of time at the Cap Theater seeing these shows, and it's a great venue. The people there are great. The staff there are incredible, and it's been a lot of fun. And if you look back at the set lists, the number of first-time played songs is numerous, and it's just crazy how many things you will get at the Cap. I am anticipating, I'm just speculating this, of course, that, with Shapiro involved, Goose is probably too big for the Cap, but you never say never. So I'm going to say I doubt Goose ever plays there again, but I'm pretty confident we're going to get an Orebolo run there every year. So it won't surprise me if we hear something in the next month or 2 or 3 about some winter Orebolo little mini run there again. I think we're going to get one every year. It's just my theory and my hope, of course. So
Fingers crossed. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
I really hope so. So where can people find you? Plug your pages here, and then we'll plug them again at the end.
On Twitter or Facebook groups, just type in Goose, the band history trivia, and you'll be pretty easy to find it. the group's fun. We have a lot of people in there, almost 2,000 people, and a lot of people share information, and we chat, we send pictures, videos, and stuff like that. So it's a fun little group. We ask questions, we do some trivia, so it's fun. And then on Twitter, I interact a lot with people, but I also post every day in there. So I do a little differently on each page. So some things I don't always share on one page versus the other for Twitter and Facebook. Sometimes it's both, and I put it together, and I just do the same thing on each page. Do a little, mix it up a little bit, which is a lot of fun. And there's different people. It's funny. The people on Facebook are not on Twitter. The people on Twitter are not on Facebook. So you really learn that, which is really interesting. One more thing I'll say is that when we get new people to join, you can see where they're from. And as this tour has progressed out west, we're pulling people in from those towns. So it's really neat seeing a guy who wants to join us from Oregon. I'm like, wow. Then the next guy wants to join us from Washington. And you saw that along the way with the group. So it's kind of cool data mining that people are going to the shows and then they're joining these groups afterwards. And I saw it firsthand happen this tour for the first time ever, really just looking at who wants to join the Facebook group. So pretty cool little tidbit of knowledge there. So
amazing. I mean, the band's growing so fast. You love to see it and see the audience expand to the West Coast. They'll be playing big enough venues there soon enough that we can't get tickets as easily as we do now.
Yeah, West Coast tickets seem to be a lot easier to get than East Coast tickets. So, and that holds true for a lot of bands too. I think Phish is the same way. It's a little bit easier to get tickets out west than it is on the East Coast for obvious reasons. East Coast is better. No, I'm joking, but bigger fan base.
Yeah, Jersey strong here. We got 2 out of 3 here from New Jersey, so gonna shut Mike out. But anyway, Mike, let's dive into our next topic. So what do we got coming up?
All right. So based on where we left off, Goose picked back up in Troutdale, Oregon. We kicked off with a Jive 2 in the opener spot, and then Silver Rising into Lookout Cleveland, Feel It Now, Lead Up, and Animal closing set 1. And then set 2 kicks off with Creatures into Tomorrow Never Knows, Arrow, A Western Sun, The Empress of Organos, and Arcadia Encore. So what do you like there highlight-wise, Alex?
Oh my gosh, where to even start? I mean, you kick this thing off with the Jive 2 opener. First time we had seen it since the Salt Shed shows, and just solidifying that it's the best Jive in that opening slot. Perfect slow groove. You could almost sense that had the crowd locked in early just from watching the video feed. It was like looking at the people in the crowd, they looked mesmerized. And then a few songs later, you get a really great version of Lookout Cleveland, the longest version we've seen of this song yet, and the first time they had jammed it out since 21 at the length that they did. Get a really nice slow groove on this thing with Peter and Rick kind of going back and forth and exchanging some really cool melodies. And then, Cotter, about 10, 11 minutes in, kind of reads the room, wants to shift the song into a different direction, starts going double time, ramping up the energy to bring this thing out to the explosive close you'd expect from Lookout Cleveland. So those are my 2 big takeaways, especially from the first set. And obviously there's a ton more to talk about on this show because the West Coast run was pretty nuts.
Totally agree about the Lookout Cleveland. I think that may be my number 1 highlight from the show, but also just some other call outs. The Creatures was really big. Creatures had a funky beginning to it, and then it turned into a big face melting dance party ending. And it was a pretty awesome Arrow too. I don't know if it hit the heights of like all time Arrows, but it was still really great to listen to that one as well. And the closing songs, of course, were, I don't know, that's the energy I want to peak on Empress into Arcadia to end my night. So really solid show in Troutdale. Do you have any highlights there on that one, Dean?
Yeah, well, you stole my notes with Lookout Cleveland being the longest version ever, but yeah, that was great. Lookout Cleveland was awesome. You look for things in shows that are just, they play songs, and sometimes the songs are extended jams, and sometimes they're just the songs. And you look for everything in sets, like what are the little highlight moments, obviously what you talked about. Lookout Cleveland was by far the highlight for me in set 1. Loved it. I thought set 2 was awesome. It's one of the best sets of this little run that we're reviewing today. I love the layout, Creatures into Tomorrow Never Knows. I love how the blend going into Tomorrow Never Knows works every single time they do it. I was really lucky. I was at Radio City Night 2, so obviously I got a really good Tomorrow Never Knows, which was great. Little story on that, out touring with the Dead in 92. I'm at Cal Expo in Sacramento in May of '92, and the encore was Baba O'Reilly, Into Tomorrow Never Knows, and it was the first time ever. So I got really lucky, just in the right place at the right time to catch the Grateful Dead playing Tomorrow Never Knows, Baba O'Reilly and Tomorrow Never Knows for the first time ever. So it was really cool. I love the placement of Western Sun right before the last song of the second set, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm really big on the second to last songs of set 2, going back to my Grateful Dead days for good reason. And when we get to This Old Sea in the next 2 shows, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But great show, great ending. It's funny with Arcadia as an encore. It's always great. I want a really long Arcadia once. I want a really jammed out Arcadia. And you know what? When you count the curfew. Oh, it's 12 minutes. That's all we're getting. We're getting a 12-minute Arcadia. I want a 25-minute Arcadia, and I'm just waiting for it to just get it. And, time-wise, I knew we weren't going to get it that night, though. But great shows. Were a lot of fun to listen to. I stream everything, so if I'm not there and I wasn't at any of these shows, I'm going to live stream it all. Hopefully I don't fall asleep streaming. I didn't for any of these shows. I managed to stay awake for all of them, which was a little rough the next day, but a lot of fun listening on the stream. I use AirPods, or I put it on my TV, and then I put AirPods on the TV, so it's a lot of fun just playing with the band and being involved in the entire tour, just listening to everything that they play, so it's great.
Yeah. Really tough staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast for some of these shows.
It's painful. It's tough.
We struggled as well, but it's worth it for Goose. To your point about Arcadia, we got to get this thing back in an opening slot or a mid-set slot so we can get the jammed out versions that we are all craving on this. I mean, as great as it is, compact, and it's an awesome show closer, we got to get that crazy Arcadia this year with Cotter. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I've not to make us drag on too long, but I've been saying for a while that we need to make Arcadia great again. Not that it isn't great to both of your points. I do love it, but it hasn't been jammed out in a while. And then to the other point, I definitely agree with the wanting to stay up for the streams, because even though I'm going to listen to it the next day, there's something that makes it a lot more fun and special when you're like actually attending the show virtually in real time. So
yeah, there are no bad versions of Arcadia. I don't even know what you would say. There are none, but the exceptional when you're waiting for something like, every once in a while like that, like the Jam of the Year. You just want something that's potentially a top 4 Jam of the Year, Final 4, Final 8 one. And I don't think we've got one this year. At least I don't think I've heard one. But that's what I'm looking for, hopefully. And hopefully I'll be at that show when it happens. So that's the goal.
Oh, definitely. I can't wait for it to happen. Maybe Goose Miss this year or something, a big event, I think is where it's going to finally happen for us. But, Dean, you got the set list for Eugene pulled up, moving on to the next Oregon show?
I do have the set list. Well, we opened the show with Lead the Way, followed by All I Need, which was the slow melodic version, followed by Dragging the Line, which was a pretty big bust out. That was the first time Goose had played that since Halloween of 21, 230 shows. After Dragging the Line, we went into Butterflies, and then we got a little bit of the band with W.S. Walcott Medicine Show. 86 shows ago was the last time played, so it's a semi bust out, not a big one. July 1st of 2023, so it was a year. Took over a year for them to play it again, and then they closed out the set with a pretty awesome Butter Rum. Set 2, 4 songs, which a lot of people love. I love smaller 3-4 song sets are always going to be great. Just looking at it, it's good. So we go with Pancakes to open, followed by Bob Don, and then Tumble, and they close out the set with Slow Ready. And I'm guessing time-wise, maybe something to play. Never saw the original set list, but they encored with Dawn, which we can argue whether that's a song or not. But I leave that alone. I don't get to make that decision. They encored with Dawn, which was pretty awesome. And Dawn as an encore is really good. And it's a really great song to hear to end the show with. Love it. So,
man, you stole the win from my sales. I was going to ask you if you thought Dawn was a song.
Well, we're even now, so I don't get to make those decisions, so I don't have to worry about it. I can just have fun joking around about it, whether it's a song or not. I like doing that. Is Satellite a song? Is Thunder a song? There's a lot of Goose has a lot of complicated things out there that, you can argue, which is really weird, all these sideline add-on things that they do, which makes it great. It makes it really complicated for a new person who starts looking at the band, like, what is all this stuff? But it makes it all for fun. I like the argument part of it, so.
Oh, it's so entertaining. But getting back into the show a little bit, what were your highlights, Dean? Do you have any specific songs you want to shout out from this amazing Eugene no extra use show.
Yeah, I'm just here. We are again, another great second set. I mean, they just two in a row for me. I'm a second set guy, and I thought it was great. That pancakes was the longest ever, and again, longest doesn't always mean best, but when you get your head into a jam and you're deep in it, and I have this thing at shows. I have my eyes open when they sing, and a lot of times when they jam, my eyes are shut and I can hear the music better. That's just how I feel like it works. I hear it better. I can focus on different aspects of the song, who's playing what. But the Pancakes Jam got me good. It was really good. I've always said I like the Pancakes Jam better than the Pancakes song, lyric wise. So I enjoy the jams more than the song. So every time Pancakes is on, I'm looking forward to what they're going to do in the jam, which is really good. Pancakes and Tumble was awesome. But every song is good. I don't go to a show and say I don't like this song. I don't have a bathroom break song either. I've learned my lesson from the Grateful Dead. I had bathroom break songs. There are no bathroom break songs for me. I enjoy every song as if it's my last song I'm ever going to hear. That's my motto, and it always will be going forward. So
there really isn't a bad Goose song in our opinion. So you're on the right podcast if you want to echo that sentiment, because we're a nice echo chamber for you there. How about you, Mike? Any big highlights you want to shout out from this Eugene show? Really jammy second set.
Yeah, Dean alluded to it. I mean, I think the big winner is Pancakes. All I Need. I liked a lot about All I Need this night too. And then, of course, there's a lot of themes for 2024. Cover bust outs is definitely one of my favorite themes of this year. So Dragging the Line was pretty freaking awesome as well. But this Pancakes was just absolutely epic. Not just that it was the longest one ever. And I don't know if it'll work equally well for everyone, because I feel like it's like almost a little bit ADD or schizophrenic, this jam. I mean, they're like changing themes and genres like every 2 minutes, almost like they're pulling themes out of a magical hat. So it does bounce around quite a lot, and they're definitely changing quite consistently and quickly. But for me, it totally worked, and I love just going on the journey because Pancakes just took you to every place imaginable.
Yeah, it was a hell of a ride. It sounded like they were trying to find their footing for the first few minutes entering into the jam, but then once they did, like you said, it was just like a spin wheel of let's pick this type of genre or this effect to work with and try to build around, and then they just kept shifting around, and it was a roller coaster ride of emotions. But really fun stuff. It's nice when you can listen to a 30-plus minute version of a song and not feel like it's dragging on or anything like that. It was actually very entertaining through and through. And for me, Dean also highlighted that Tumble, great Tumble. Again, the year of Tumble. It's between that and Arrow in 2024, in my opinion, of just can't miss Goose. Really electric jam from Rick. You get almost like a rolling marching drum feel from Cotter a lot through this thing. And then kind of closing it out before going back into the ending run of Tumble, you almost get into like this kind of darker carnival of evil kind of feel before riding it back out into the closing of Tumble you'd expect. So I really love all the different space that they're checking out with Tumble and exploring in these jams. And once again, every time you think you've heard it all with Tumble, they just kind of find a new space to explore.
Yeah, this was also a Rick Picard shirt. He was wearing his classic Picard shirt at this show, which I first caught at the Chrysalis show, one of the Chrysalis shows back in Maryland in August 22. And, Rick walks out with the shirt on. Everybody loves it. So it's one of the great shirts now. Now, he's not Cotter, who's now in another world with his outfits, which is just incredible. But the Picard shirt, Rick, I mean, we have some regulars that these guys wear, like Peter with his Mets stuff and Rick with his Picard. And God knows when Cotter starts rolling back some of these outfits that he has on and the earrings that he's got on now, too. It's great. So it's a lot of fun seeing what they wear, and I really do enjoy it. And if you ever notice Trevor, just look at what sneakers he's wearing. Trevor has a collection. He's got a very eclectic collection of kicks that he wears. It's pretty interesting. So,
yeah, I'm wondering if we've seen even half of Cotter's open vest contraptions he likes to wear on this tour yet.
We're just getting started there. I feel like he's the rookie, and they're like hazing him, but he's just comfortable now, and it's great. And it's great, and people love him, and it's such a great thing that it's just like he's been there he hasn't obviously, but he's just so comfortable now, and you can tell, and that's what makes it so awesome. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, you heard him at the Cap, electric start, then going into summer tour in June. It just almost felt like he was even more gelled, and now it's just like it feels like it's once again with this band's story just leveling up every time they do another tour. So I'm curious if they'll bust out like 10 new songs going into October like they did between June and September all of a sudden. I doubt it, but
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised with that at Homedale. But anyway, getting back on track with these latest September shows, let's roll into the San Diego, California show at the Cal Coast Amphitheater. Really another great show, small venue in San Diego. Get started with the Turbulence and the Night Rays, going into Mais Canada, great cover, and then Draconian Meter Maid, into One In, One Out, into Weird Fishes by Radiohead, and then getting Into the Mist and So Ready to close out set 1. And then set 2, we get a Madhuvan opener, then a Redbird, into This Old Sea, and a Factory Fiction closer for the second time this tour, with an encore of Zalt. So where do we want to get started, gentlemen? How about we start with you this time, Mike, on what's your highlight from San Diego?
Yeah, for me, it's all about this Madhuvan. It starts off with out of the gates. It's got a slow and steady approach. And I really feel like these are great examples of where Cotter pays off so much for the band, because I've said it before, but his ability to stagger the rhythms, it leads to this build that just goes to exploding peaks is really the only way I can describe it. And it had an awesome dark finish to it that I'm not going to say it's my favorite jam of the year, but I do think it's my favorite finish to a jam of the year. Just absolutely outstanding stuff. As soon as it ended, I went back and played the last 5 minutes all over again. So it was my highlight for sure, but great set start to finish.
Yeah, explosive ending to this one. Another song where they're really exploring a lot of different finishes and spaces within the jams. You love to see it. Totally different feel from the ones we had seen in Holmdel or in Denver. So really exciting stuff. Dean, how about you? Any highlights you want to shout out from this show in specific?
Yeah, I'll probably highlight that for all of these set of shows that we're reviewing right now. I think this was my favorite, probably because of set 2 and the encore being so awesome. But even set 1 is great, and you get a couple really cool covers. Mas Que Nada, for one, I mean, it's in Portuguese, and think about it. Rick sings songs in English. Here he is taking an entire song and learning a song in Portuguese and singing it. It's pretty unbelievable. And I mean, obviously, a lot of people do sing the song. And it's not even Sergio Mendez's song, who 1966 is when he first started playing it. It goes back to 63, some guy, Jorge Ben, who wrote the song. But it's pretty cool that Rick's able to do that. And if you've ever get a chance, if you're listening, go do the translation on the song. Go read the English to it. It's pretty cool, the translation into the song and stuff like that. I'm a huge Into the Mist fan. Cat Mist just sold me. I didn't realize how much I loved it until Cat Mist. So every time Mist is on, I absolutely love the song. Cat Mist is the GOAT for me, but it was a great version. Set 2 was great. You can't beat it. The Madhuvan is just amazing. It's just incredible song. There's a part in Madhuvan after they sing the song, they slow it down to what I kind of call space. It feels like Grateful Dead space, where they're just not even sure where they're going to go. And they just start goofing around. And then they start going in whatever direction they're going to take the song. And that's the one thing about that song. You just have no idea what they're going to do. And do it different every time. Just blow my mind away every single time you play it. And I'll be thrilled to death. 18, 20, 25 minutes, somewhere in that area every time. That's what we need from Madhuvan every single time. And that's what we get every single time, which is great. Redbird's great. But I'll go back to the next song, third song, which was the second to last song of the set, is This Old Sea. So if you understand Grateful Dead set list composition, the second to last song of set 2 was always a Jerry ballad. It always was. Jerry would slow down, Stella Blue, China Doll, something like that. Then he'd pick it back up, close the show out. But it was that Jerry ballad slot. And if you look at Goose set lists, you will see the ballad falling into here more times than not. And This Old Sea is one of the great ones, if not the best one. Hopefully Not Alone will come back. They haven't played it yet this year with Cotter. But This Old Sea, 726, and it's the perfect slot. They did This Old Sea Factory Fiction once before. They did that back at the Cap shows. So this is the second time they've done This Old Sea Factory Fiction. But it's a great slot for Rick to slow down and do a solo ballad type of song right there. It's just awesome slot. And going back a couple shows ago, I listened to your last podcast. This Old Sea ended the set. Technically, it didn't, because if you looked at the paper set list, there was another song after that. So This Old Sea was supposed to be the second to last song for that set as well. So it's the ballad slot. Every show, Rick should be singing a ballad, second to last song. And hopefully there'll be more to be created. And there's still somewhere on the shelf that he hasn't sung yet, that from some of the old bands, but ballad slot right there, second to last song of set 2.
Yeah, Definitely agree with you on all points made. This Old Sea, I was curious when I was watching this thing live after it had closed Bonner, you know, even though that wasn't the intent at the time. It looked like there was enough time for them to maybe do another Charlottesville style longer jam on this thing if they wanted to close the set with it. But it was really nice to see them squeeze in a compact version of Factory Fiction to kind of repeat that theme from the cap you mentioned, Dean.
Yeah. Oh, and the new version is unbelievable. The way they've changed it with the harmonies and stuff, it's unbelievable. It's really cool. So we're just getting to that. That's a whole new part of the whole song, which is great. If you go back and listen to the first time played ever back at the Bingo tour, the intro to This Old Sea, they only did it once or twice. It's a different intro. It's really neat how they do the intro. Then they go into the song and they stop doing that. I would love to hear them do that part again too. That little intro. So go back and listen to the first one or two versions of This Old Sea, and you'll hear that different intro that they do to the song.
Oh, for sure. I'm curious if we can squeeze that in on a bingo ball submission for Goose Miss. Just This Old Sea intro bingo tour 2020. But Factory Fiction, going back a little bit, just great to see great songs be played. It looks like they're starting to do this a little bit more with, the Autumn Crossing run with Factory Fiction, trying to kind of squeeze it in once or twice a tour. And even though some people might like their rarities being super rare, it's just nice to have people have a chance to hear these things. Great songs should get played. And Zalt, great song that you can jam out if you need to. It's like kind of the perfect song depending on how long you have till curfew or set ending or whatever. You can jam it out, you can keep it short. It's electric every time. So really loved it there in this slot, even with the time crunch against curfew. Really, probably their best choice in terms of being flexible in that encore/set closer slot. But from San Diego, took about a 4 or 5 hour drive, depending on traffic, up to Los Angeles to go to the Greek Theater for Goose's 10-year anniversary of their first show played. Big event, big historic venue. So, Dean, how about you read off the set list here for Los Angeles at the Greek Theater?
So they kick off the set with Dr. Darkness, which is a classic set one opener, into another set one opener, Hot Love and the Lazy Poet. From there, we go right into Turn Clouds, followed by Echo of a Rose, fast version, and it was unfinished. And then a little jealousy sets in for me, No California, great cover. And then the heavy metal song, Big Modern. I like to joke about that, of course. And the set ends with Give It Time, which was great. It was a really good set. Set two, if you're chasing covers, this is a show for you. Eminence Front, right into Dripfield, followed by Yeti, and then Pumped Up Kicks, another song that a lot of people I know are chasing for covers. Back to Yeti. They've been sandwiching songs a lot this tour. There was a stat that I had done. It was like 7 out of 9 shows or 6 out of 9 shows in a row. They had done a sandwich, and it's pretty cool to see that they're doing that way more than they used to. And after Yeti, we get a St. John's Revival song, one of only 2 out of the 5 songs that they've recorded that we've ever heard, Arise. Arise and It Burns Within are the only 2 St. John's Revival songs we've heard. There's 3 other ones that they've never played. Arise, which, again, second to last song of set 2 being a ballad, and Rick singing Arise. And that's the first time since the Cap shows in March of 23 that was played. So that's Cotter's first time playing Arise. And Arise ends with an always awesome Arcadia. And then the encore was Hot Tea, of course. So,
yeah, so where do we want to get started on this? Do you have any highlights off the top of your head, Dean, that you want to shout out before we get into it?
When I was at the Orebolo shows for the Cap and they played No California for the first time, and I had no idea who Ilse Juber was, and it took me a while to actually figure out how to say her name because I needed to say it for the Cap shows when I was doing the reviews and stuff like that. So, but it's a great song. It's a great cover. Look, they've been opening lately with, you see a lot of times now, 1, 2, and 3 set one opener songs in a row. Bang, bang, bang. These 8, 9, 10-minute songs, and they did it here. Dr. Darkness, Hot Love, Turn Clouds, Echo of a Rose. Echo's a set one opener too. It's a great set. And look, Big Modern. And we were both there for the first time ever at PNC. We heard the sound check of them playing it. Big Modern's awesome. And again, it's popping up all over the place. They can play that anywhere. I joke about the heavy metal. There's a 10 to 15 second part where Goose is a heavy metal band when they're playing the song, and it's just so awesome. You're like, whoa, this is great. And Give It Time's an awesome song too. Just absolutely love it. I don't know, the set was great. Eminence Front. I've never heard Pumped Up Kick from Goose. I caught an Eminence front. I've yet to see No California from Goose, but I like to, check things off a box. If you were chasing covers, you got 3 really good ones at this show. So really nice show.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know how much better they could have constructed a set list for their big 10-year anniversary. It just kind of had a little bit of everything you want, highlighting some of their newer songs, showing the evolution of the band through the years, and then, of course, closing it out with 2 of their biggest songs, Arcadia and Hati. I mean, looked like an awesome time, minus all the chompers that we heard about from our messages we got on our socials. But
yeah,
for anyone who was there, exciting stuff. Mike, you have any highlights that you want to shout out from the show?
Oh, so many. The first set was amazing because that's got to be one of the most amounts of variety I've ever seen them throw into a set one. I mean, every song there, you've got like different genres, different energy. They just cover the whole entire range there. I haven't had even 2 weeks to listen to it yet, but this might be the greatest version of Dripfield ever. I mean, good Lord, it blew my brain. But I think to me, Dripfield's probably the most obvious, but also Big Modern. I mean, is it not like the song of 2024 at this point? Like every version goes and does something different. It's always an amazing jam so far. I don't feel like they've missed with it early on here in its history. And something cool that I noticed in Big Modern is, typically in the past or even very recently, a lot of times when they're moving jams around, a lot of it's based around, of course, Rick's amazing lead work. But what was cool in this Big Modern is there's 2 or 3 instances where he starts moving the jam to a different place with his chord work and his chord progressions. And it made for a really interesting listen, something I hadn't heard the band do very often recently. So what about you, Alex?
So good. I mean, is it too early to say that Big Modern's my favorite Goose song? Because it feels like it's just ascending up the list of songs that I like the most. Every version has just been absolutely killer, from the start. Dean mentioned that Holmdel just blew our minds there, and they've just continued to make it more compact, but explore a ton of different territory with it. Once the jam starts on this thing, well, you get, first backing up a little bit, you get that awesome kind of like back and forth riff from Peter and Rick where they're playing like 2 notes each, and then it goes in that heavy metal part and like goosebumps every time. And then when the jam starts on this thing, you just really don't know where it's going to go. On this one especially, it felt like a really patient build to start with, Trevor up front almost driving the melody on this thing, and Peter and Rick are just kind of back and forth, kind of patiently building riffs. And then they kind of get into this almost like haunting space during this thing and gets really like atmospheric but also dark for a minute, and then it kind of gets in this uplifting riff to take the song out. And I really like this run to close out set 1. You get the Big Modern, Give It Time back to back, really kind of after exploring a little bit of that dark space in the Big Modern heavy metal head banging, you get a nice sing-along song, Give It Time, uplifting, and it's always really fun to sing along easily with Rick on this song, and great way to go into set break and be excited for the rest of the show. And then obviously you had mentioned that Dripfield. I think it has a great argument for being the GOAT version of this song. Much more patient approach and like full band jam than we're used to hearing sometimes with Goose. But really great stuff. I got to listen to this one a lot more. It's been at the top of my list in terms of favorite songs from this tour so far. Spoiler alert if we get into that later. But really, really great stuff. And then lastly, just got to shout out, how could you play a show without, or 10-year anniversary show without playing Arcadia, even though it had just gotten played a few shows ago. Like, you gotta close out the main portion of this set with your biggest song. So anyway, you guys ready to dive into the next show, closing out the September tour at the Frost Amphitheater in Stanford?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right. So going into this Stanford show, coming off the highs of the 10-year anniversary, you're getting the tour closer for September. We did not know until the day of, basically, that there was going to be another show coming up soon at the Troubadour. That was announced earlier in the day. But we get an Animal to start off in Stanford, then California Magic, Silver Rising, Feel It Now, Rockdale, into Fish in the Sea, and Thatch to close out set 1. In set 2, we get an Arrow opener, and then Autumn Crossing, Travelers into Elmec the Wise, and then a Hunger Site closer. And when we come back with an encore of The Empress of Organos. Really, really strong closing set for this September leg of the tour. You get a little cheeky nod to the poster for the night, which was a monkey on the poster, and you get an Animal opener. And then you get some cool nuggets thrown in. Obviously, Autumn Crossing is the crown jewel for a lot of people, the big chaser. You tend to see it late in tours. So that was awesome, and it's really nice that was highlighted in the second set. But also get the reappearance of Fish in the Sea for the first time since the Boston shows. So where we want to start, gents? What was your highlight, Dean?
First set was great. I love Fish in the Sea. And I'm not taking away from any of their original songs, but I love the jam in Fish in the Sea. I was lucky that I was at the Boost tour and I caught the tab horns at Mohegan Sun. And, certain moments at shows make you fall in love with songs. And I fell in love with Fish in the Sea right then and there. And I'll never forget, just like Cat Mist for me. But it just happens. I'm a huge all these songs are great. They're nice, easy songs. I don't think anything was over 20 minutes that first set. It was just bang, 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 song after song, and a really good, fun song. If you're a first time person seeing Goose, it was a pretty good first set to get for nice, easy songs, easy to hear the lyrics to. You can understand Rick at most of these songs. A little bit of facts you're going to get goofed up on. Second set was great. I mean, look, Goose released the YouTube video of the Travelers LMAG, and they called it Autumn Crossing. I think it's great that they did that, and they didn't do the names of the songs, and I think it's awesome. And it kind of goes with Factory Fiction, where, and some other things like maybe even the Jive Fecta, where Goose is trying to spread out where they play these, and they've admitted it with Factory Fiction. They've looked at where they've played it and where they haven't. So that's really nice that different sections of the country where we got the LMAG suite. We got it in Chicago, right, as well. During this tour, was it Chicago that we got it at?
It was Boston, actually.
At Boston, okay, sorry, at Boston. We got it at Boston. So you can see how they're spreading these out over time, and they're being conscious about that, which is awesome. Empress as an encore is always a great encore. It's just a happy ending to any show. You got to love it, but really good show overall. The Autumn Crossing is going to be my highlight anytime it's in a show. So I can just say that's my highlight of the show, Autumn Crossing. First set, you got all your songs in Fish in the Sea. I really liked, so I enjoyed listening to that song a lot. It's a lot of fun, so.
Yeah, definitely. And you could tell that was the band's highlight, A, from them posting it immediately to YouTube, but B, they had more compact versions of Arrow and Hunger Sight around it to make sure there's enough space for this song, or for this suite of songs, Autumn Crossing. So amazing stuff. Mike, how about you? Any highlights you want to shout out from the Frost Amphitheater?
Yeah, I mean, to echo Dean, Fish in the Sea is literally always invited to every show. Definitely one of their best covers. I'll be very excited whenever I get to hear that for the first time. I think what stood out to me the most outside of that was, yes, Autumn Crossing. That's always going to be, I think if you at a show where that gets played, that's going to automatically be highlight 1A. But the Arrow was also really awesome. And I don't know a ton about piano playing, so I'll probably explain this very poorly, but during the jam, Peter had like one hand kind of playing one constant dissonant note, and then the other hand was seemingly playing a run, and he kind of stretched that out for a bit. And it was a zone that I don't know that I've heard the band exist in before. If they have, probably not that often. So I thought it was a very unique Arrow. I very much enjoyed this show start to finish, though.
Yeah. I mean, really, really great set to close out the September tour, and Dean alluded to it a little bit. It seemed like, just from reading online and stuff like that, there's a lot of like first-time fans or newer fans going to these shows on the West Coast, and really great set list between LA and this. Like, really great set lists for bringing in new fans and introducing them to the music they probably already heard and checked out before they went to the show, but also throwing in rarities and real gems. So awesome California run. We finally got that California magic everyone was expecting since San Diego. And then got a little bit of a troll, but in the best way, with the No California cover in LA, and then finally California magic in Stanford. So I just wanted to shout that out real quick. But alluding to what I had mentioned before the Stanford show, we had a surprise earlier in the day. They announced a show on Tuesday, October 1st at the Troubadour, the historic Troubadour in West Hollywood, California. This show was a benefit show for La Playa Centro Comunitario.
Nice.
And really, really awesome stuff. No one really knew what to expect from this. Obviously, tiny venue, holds about 500 people. The show sold out in about 12 milliseconds. If you try to get on the on sale, you were in a queue of like 3,000 people. And upon entering the venue, looking at pictures and videos shared, it looked like the band was playing with obviously a more stripped down set of equipment than they're used to playing with these days. Rick looked like he only had one pedal board up there on stage. He usually has 3. Peter's had a handful of his keys and his clav up there. It looked like Jeff had a more compact set of, bongos and congas and just a few drums on his full kit or anything like that. And just a really, really cool opportunity for anyone who got a ticket to this thing to see the band kind of almost in their old setting that you might have expected to see in like 2018 time frame. So, Mike, you want to read off this monster of a set list for us? Just insanity.
Yeah, I haven't read any set lists in a while, so let me read this beast here. So, starts off with Drive, goes into All I Need, Indian River into Cantaloupe Island, Born, Seekers on the Ridge, Part 1 and Part 2, War Pigs, which is completely out of nowhere, Tumble, and then set 2 was Creatures, Shamalama Ding Dong, Sinnerman, Jeff Engberg, Everything Must Go, Ship of Fools, which was the first time ever played, Pancakes, and then an encore of Slow Ready Dawn. I hope I never have to read a set list that long again, but like, man, is it fun to think about what it would have been like to have been there.
I can't think of a set list where they played this many songs unless you go back to some of like their early shows where they were playing like 3 sets and tons of covers back in the day. But where we want to start here, gents, Dean, you have anything that sticks out immediately? Probably let's go set by set on this one because it's almost like a full show between each set list here.
Sounds good. I'll do set 1 first, and then we'll go around the horn. Well, the show ended at 3:30 a.m. Just to let you know, I was up. Someone had the audio through Twitter, so I got it. It wasn't the best audio, but it was audio, so it was better than nothing. And I like to be present while it's happening. So 3:30 a.m. was the end time. Really cool set. The audio is tough to hear, so we still need the soundboards, and I'm giving it an incomplete. I just don't know. War Pigs is such a cool song. I just don't know how it doesn't sound. I need the soundboards to really hear it, to really give it a good judge on the song and stuff like that. I know people put YouTube videos up, but it's still not soundboard quality yet. But it's a pretty good set, and it's long. That's a lot of songs right there. I didn't catch the Cantaloupe Island. Maybe I had walked away. Looking back at the set list, I'm like, whoa, they played Cantaloupe Island. Maybe I just missed it or I got disconnected or something, but I didn't catch that. But always love it. I'm a big Seekers fan. It's funny because you have 2 sandwiches. You have 2 songs here, Seekers 1 and Seekers 2. And then when we get the second set, Creatures and Shama. There's something about certain songs that Goose plays that you're always wondering, are they going to play the follow-on song with it? Because there's going to be a day when they play Seekers 1 and they don't play 2, and everyone's going to be like, whoa, what just happened? Same thing with Creatures. I know so many people chasing Shama. It's when every time Creatures is played, is it coming? Is it coming? And now with Travelers, is it the Sweet? With Jive 1, is it the Jive Fecta? There's always that wait at the end of the song. And you got that with Seekers, because I do it every time. Because one day they're not going to do it, and people are going to be blown away. So, but of course they did it. So, pretty good first set. So,
yeah, absolutely terrific. And I totally agree. I've been waiting for that day ever since I started listening back to shows. And I just want to shout out really quickly on this War Pigs that Will Forte, Hollywood actor Will Forte, guested on this song and he sang on it, which was a very interesting choice. Seemed like it was a last-minute ad here. He was a goofball up on stage, had this crazy echo effect on his voice, and he was, at one point, it looked like he was like staring at Rick halfway through the song as he was ripping. I've pieced together quite a few YouTube videos on this thing, but just great to see, big time guests up on stage, not necessarily of the musical variety, but it was a really funny and fun, unexpected cover there. Seems like really the crown jewels in terms of jamming on this set were Born and Tumble. Again, more compact versions than we've seen in the past on this tour especially, but really great to see that. And then, yeah, that Cantaloupe Island was kind of hard to catch on a first listen. I had to really listen back with intent and then realize, like, oh, sure enough, they played Cantaloupe Island. I just was kind of so in the zone with the Indian River that I didn't really notice it. So it's a great point you made there, Dean. Any highlights you want to shout out here, Mike?
Not really. I'm just very upset that I wasn't able to make this. I am also waiting on, hopefully at some point we do get soundboards, because then I'll be able to truly take this in and digest it. I listened to the audio that we have, but I'm probably one and done on the audio that we have just because it's not, what we're accustomed to getting with this band. I need hi-fi quality at this point. We've just gotten used to it. So, but you just look at it on paper and it's Goose. They don't play bad shows. As musicians, they're all amazing. So I'm sure it was an epic show. And the only thing that I really want to shout out is that it is one of the coolest things ever that they decided to play Ship of Fools. If it only ends up being this one time, so be it. But just the fact that they did it, I applaud them endlessly.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into that set too. So we open up with this suite of creatures and the Shamalama Ding Dong and the Center Man. Just 30-minute dance party right there. As Dean mentioned, Sham is a big chaser. Crowd must have been really pumped to see that. But I will say that creatures seemed like it was going places. So it's like a what could have been on this creatures here, where it seemed like it was really going to explode into a really cool space. And then I mean the transition into Shamalama Ding Dong was pretty seamless and fantastic. But I really love what they've been doing with these creatures and jamming them out longer than they had been doing earlier in the year. So really curious what could have been, but you really can't turn down a Shama. And as you mentioned, Mike, Ship of Fools, awesome. I think maybe I'm being a little bit hasty here, but I think it might be the best Grateful Dead cover that this band does that we've gotten the last few years. I listened to the Orebolo version so much, probably worn that thing out somehow electronically, where phone probably doesn't want me to listen to it anymore. But to see it full band finally was a treat. And then the encore, I got to shout out the encore here. Slow Ready into Dawn, really unexpected, but really cool. The transition I didn't know I needed worked fantastic. So, Dean, how about you? Anything from set 2 that you want to shout out in specific?
Yeah, well, back to the creature Shama. I mean, everyone's always hoping when they play creatures that they'll go into Shama, and they got it here again for the second time this tour. Sinnerman is an amazing song, and it's funny because if you go to enough Goose shows, you're going to get your Seekers, you're going to get your Indian Rivers, you're going to get your common songs, but what you don't get is these rarity covers that they do, and here they are. They're going back to 2019, busting some out. And then some of them are rare where they play once or twice. Some of them they play once a tour. And I've had a bunch of Cinnermans, which is incredible that I've gotten so many. But what a great song. And if you've never listened to Nina Simone's version, go listen to it. Her voice is unbelievable. It's just a dark song. It's really neat. I just love listening to Rick sing it. Everything Must Go has a universe with a view. It's probably one of my favorite Goose lines in it. And I'm attached to that song for a couple reasons, but A Universe with a View is just awesome. And one day they've been jamming it out. I still do believe one day it's going to be a Jam of the Year candidate. There is not one yet, I don't think, for this year, but there's some that are going to be close, maybe in the top 20, but I still think they're going to take that really far. As far as Ship of Fools, again, second to last song of set 2. You got your type of ballad. You're right in that slot again. That's every show. That's what I want Rick to do. Every single show. And yeah, the Orebolo version is incredible. The one in the Solarium, April 5th of 2020, that's the first time they ever played it. The acoustics in that Solarium, it's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm really happy they brought it over. I do believe Half Steps, for me, is the best song that Goose has taken from the Grateful Dead and played. But for Orebolo, Ship of Fools is probably their best Goose song that they sing on their end, which is great. And I just love to see it. It's one more song that W. Ted gets to do when my buddy does his Dead to Me episode. He gets to add another song into the repertoire for that show as well, which is really nice. Pancakes is great. And then, yeah, just like you said, the encore, Slow Ready into Dawn, just blows your mind that they're throwing Dawn again in here after you thought it would just be Slow Ready, but then they just tag on Dawn. And two perfect songs that go side by side next to each other really well. So,
yeah, just incredible stuff. And just for some context, Dean, Mike and I always have this debate where, like, I love the stripped down acoustic stuff, and he likes the funky, more like full band stuff. So it makes sense that Ship of Fools is like my highlight, but Mississippi Half Step is like up there too for me. I prefer the slower stuff sometimes. So.
Oh, so do I. Obviously, you can tell. I expect it every show. I want that second to last song every show. I want it to be. So it's great. So great spot for it, and a first time bust out was just awesome. So
incredible, yeah. Anyone who got to go to this Troubadour show, what a treat for you! Epic set list. Shout out again to Jay Kimmo on Mixler is how I listen to this thing, and we pieced together this set list. Yeah, we pieced together the set list, kind of listening back to it really, really early in the morning, and I had to listen to it 2 or 3 times and kind of scan through it to make sure I tried to get all the songs on our set list post that morning because it was a little bit delayed. But last but not least, at the time of recording here, we were going into a long 3-week break between shows, but the band went to Mempho Fest in Memphis, Tennessee, and played a set there from 8 to 9:30 local time. Really great lineup at this festival. Earlier in the day, the band had guested with Corey Wong during his set, and sure enough, he came to return the favor. But diving into this set list here, again, we get a big modern opener for the first time. Awesome stuff. Then A Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, Lead Up, Animal. Corey Wong came on stage for that one, so what a treat for anyone who's there. Then we get the I Would Die For You cover for the first time this fall, Into Thatch, and then close out the set with Silver Rising, Hunger Sight. I don't think you could come up with a better festival set list here that's highlighting a lot of your newer songs. They really didn't play very much of their old stuff here at all. I mean, Hunger Sight's probably the oldest song on here. So where do we want to start, gents? Mike, you got a highlight you want to shout out?
Two things of note here. One, Goose is the best band ever because so many bands would just mail in their festival sets, but Goose doesn't know how to do that, and they didn't go for like a more mainstream set. They just played a perfect set, and Corey Wong guested, which was absolutely outstanding. If you appreciate guitar music, you're probably into Corey Wong, and he came up and absolutely killed it. And I didn't mention it before, but I was a little bit annoyed with the Thatch at Stanford because it was played more up-tempo, and I don't ever want to hear it that up-tempo again. And Thatch back here at the music festival was back at the regular tempo, so I very much appreciated that. And Thatch had an absolutely incredible jam, especially for a festival show. So, yeah, they continue to blow my mind.
How about you, Dean? Anything you want to shout out? Did you get a chance to watch?
Yeah, well, it's your classic festival set. I mean, they're going to go for the hits, obviously, and I didn't really realize it is mostly newer songs. Although "Hot Love and the Lazy Poet" does date back to 2012 with Pseudo, but obviously not that old with Goose. Why they're holding these songs in the closet is beyond me, but they are. But opened with Big Modern. That's the first time it's opened the first set with it. Opened second set in PNC. So just showing you that song can go anywhere. So obviously a great way to open the show too, because the song is just so hot right now. Yeah, and just a great set altogether. You got a little bit of everything. You're always going to get a cover at all these festivals, and I think Prince was a good one. The audience knows it. They're going to be a cover that everybody knows. And the Corey Wong sit-in was great. Rick and Peter sitting in with Corey Wong was great too. Listening to that, the Rick and Corey jamming, that jam was really good. Corey's set. Corey has sat in with Goose before. He did August 27th of 2022 at Sacred Rose. He sat in for them before, so they've been hanging out together for years now. The band and Corey and stuff, which is great. So very good festival set. So a good way to end give them a little break for the next couple weeks as they have some time off now. So
Yeah, well-deserved break here, and going back into that Animal guest spot a little bit. Just Corey Wong continues to show the world that he is one of the all-time great rhythm funk guitarists of all time. He contributed so much to the song even during the main verses and stuff like that, and his little accents to Rick's playing when he was soloing is just terrific stuff. So their back and forth was really entertaining. Obviously, they took some time where they were doing like a couple measures back and forth and then some extended solos back and forth, and you could see them kind of both geeking out at each other, watching with intent Corey and Rick on stage. Got some big fist bumps and hugs after the show from the guys when Corey walked off stage as well. So obviously a lot of love between these two acts, and I'd love to see Corey Wong at some point in my Goose career guesting with the band. Any final thoughts here, gents? Anything else you wanted to shout out about Mempho? I mean, what a killer set for a festival.
not much other than Goose is doing less festivals now than they've been doing, which makes sense, obviously. So I think we'll see that next year as well. Just a small handful of very select festivals going forward, just because of where they are in their timeline of growth. That they don't necessarily need to do as many, but they still want to do some. So I think we'll see more of the same. Just a handful of festivals next year as well.
Yep. And a quick correction here: Silver Rising is about 3 weeks older technically than Hunger Sight in the live setting, but both early 2022. So a lot of new songs, just like Dean said. Awesome stuff. I think they put their best foot forward for anyone who was not familiar with Goose attending this festival. That takes us to the 3-week break here before going into shows in late October. And we thought we'd close out the episode here with some rapid fire questions for Dean. Just get to know him a little bit better and give him a chance to plug himself and his accounts again here and anything else he wants to shout out in the Goose community. So, Mike, how about you take the first one?
Oh, boy, here we go.
Yeah, the impossible question for all of us to answer, but now you need to answer it. What is your favorite Goose song?
Oh, boy. So I have a top 10, but it changes, which is what it should do. It changes all the time. I'm just going to leave Madhavan at the top. So I'm going to make it nice and simple. I cannot argue against it. Madhavan's one. It's always going to be up there. I'll throw Elmeg really close too, but let's just leave Madhavan as number one. So,
all right. How about your favorite show of all time, attended or not attended?
So, favorite show of all time. I'm just going to say the next one I go to, I'm going to make it nice and simple. I'm going to be at Halloween. So, that's my favorite show. I'll make it easy. I got a friend that says that the best show is the next show. I'll leave it like that. It's really hard for me to pick because there's moments in every show. I'll go Halloween this year. I can't wait to go. So, and I'm taking a buddy who turned me on to the Grateful Dead, one of my college friends who gave me all my tapes. And he's going for the first time ever. I'm so excited. He lives down there, and I'm taking him to his first Goose show. So it's pretty exciting for that. So
Awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited for him to hear what he thinks about his first.
yeah, I've been sending him stuff. We'll see. I don't know if he's been listening, but I've been sending him stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure he'll love it. So
Yeah, got to report back on that. Do you have a favorite jam by chance?
boy, let's just go more recent. Cat Mist. I'll leave it like that. That's my favorite. I just loved it. Just absolutely loved it. Just awesome. So Cat Mist.
So uplifting, and like just how could you leave that venue without a smile after hearing that? So you talked about the Dead a little bit before, but what's your favorite music or band besides Goose?
Besides Goose, well, Grateful Dead, of course. I'm hugely addicted right now to Dogs in a Pile, so I'm gonna put them right at the top of the list. Dogs in a Pile are amazing. And back to the Dead, with the Dead, I've got a local band and I'm friends with the guys. They're an acoustic Dead band, but they jam really hard. Crickets and Cicadas, so plug to them. They're a local South Jersey band. They play all the time, all over the place. I've seen them a lot, and they jam really hard. So I get my Grateful Dead fix through them. And when they jam hard, it's like what we hear with Goose. They jam out Grateful Dead songs like nobody does, and it's just amazing. So Grateful Dead, Dogs in the Pile, bunch of other jam bands too, but they're my top two besides Goose and Orebolo, of course. So and Vasuda.
What's your favorite concert venue, Dean?
I'm just gonna go to Cap. How can I not? I've been there so many times. Cap's great. I guess Hampton's great too because I've seen Grateful Dead, I've seen Fish, and I've seen Goose at Hampton Coliseum. Red Rocks as well, but I'll just say locally the Cap just because I've been there so many times. There's always something. There's some aura about walking in that venue, so we'll leave it at the Cap.
Okay, and then just thought of this as you were talking a little bit earlier about Homedale and Big Modern. Do you have any big chase songs that you're chasing with Goose?
I'm not chasing anything anymore. I thought I was. I was chasing Dark Horse, and last year I was one show off twice, and I missed it. And now I've gotten two Dark Horses, so I'm no longer chasing Dark Horse. I'm not chasing anything. My theory is at this point, there's covers, but you're never going to get all your covers, so it doesn't matter. So I don't bother chasing them. And I've never heard Half Step for some reason. As a huge of a Dead fan that I am, I have not caught Goose playing Half Step. So I guess maybe that's my biggest chase, but I'm not super concerned. I take every show. I'm going to enjoy it no matter what. There's no bathroom breaks for me. There's no bad songs. I live in the moment. Every show is my last show. I was around when Jerry died, August 9th, 95. It was a travesty, life changing for anyone. And you just have to enjoy what we have. I don't complain. I let it be. So I'm not really chasing anything. Whatever happens, happens at every show. So I know I know it's going to be good. That's all that matters.
Yeah, like Mike always says, the worst Goose show is still a great show. So,
Absolutely.
and the culture around Goose, to your point, is really interesting. That unlike other bands who fans might cringe when they play covers, and they're like, "Oh, just play your originals." Like people are chasing the covers with Goose, which I love. But anyway, I think that's it in terms of rapid fire. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of plug any of your pages again, or shout out anything in the community you wanted to shout out. So let the people know where to find you and what you want to shout out.
Yeah, so Breakfast with Orebolo on Ted Goose Radio. Those guys are great people over there. You should be listening to that channel. Just download the app and hit play on Ted. And I'm Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, Wednesday afternoons, but all the other content's fantastic. And then Goose the Band History and Trivia. You can just search it on Facebook or Twitter. Join the Facebook group if you have Facebook, or follow me on Twitter. Nice and easy. So
Awesome stuff. Like we said, some of the best accounts and groups you can follow if you want to learn more about Goose. We've definitely learned a lot reading your page, Dean. Thank you for all of your work in the community. We are so grateful.
yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course, and we hope to have you on again sometime soon here. You are a treat, and we love your insight, and we're looking forward to getting to know you more as we get to know the community more. So thanks for coming on an early episode of our podcast. We're very appreciative.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Loved it. Thank you.
And if you like what you heard here, just a reminder to follow us on all of our socials at Slow Ready Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Mike, take us out.
See y'all later. Thank you so much for the support.
Thanks, guys. See ya.